Hi everybody, what's going on? Welcome to Sit Down. I'm DJ Sixsmith, joined today by Jane Carroll. Cookies are here. Jane bakes. How are you, Jane?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks
Good.
so much for coming in.
Thanks you for having me.
So, really interesting time for this business. You're packaging these cookies, low carb, low sugar. But before we get into that, I want to hear about your backstory. Take me back to you as a little girl growing up in the Bronx. What were you into? What were you about? You know, who was Jane as a little girl?
Well, I actually, and if you ask my family members, they would say my goal as a child in second and third grade was to be the first girl to play for the New York Yankees. So that's kind of where I went. And then for some strange reason, when I had to pick a career, I went into flowers and baking.
Interesting.
So
totally the opposite of that thought.
Totally opposite, yeah. So no baseball. I did play basketball and had a scholarship for college. Didn't take it because I had to work. Yeah, I never thought that I would be baking or have a business of my own. I just kind of went where I had to go as a kid to survive growing up in the Bronx.
Yeah, you were a hustler from day one.
I was definitely a hustler. I'm still a hustler.
Yeah, and so you have to be as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So
yeah, either that or you have to have a ton of money behind you,
right.
And I don't have a ton of money. So you need to hustle and have a really great product.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about your story is you're self-made, but you've also had multiple businesses along the way. So, you know, the flower thing was your thing for a long time.
Right.
So how did that all start, and then how did you build that up to the point where it was at?
That's an interesting story. So I had a son, and I needed to make money. After high school, we didn't go to college. The girls didn't go to college in our family. The boys did, but the girls didn't. So my mother always thought that we would eventually marry some rich guy or a prince somewhere. I mean, where were we going to find them in the Bronx? I have no idea. But so that was her goal for us. And I always wanted to kind of do my own thing. So after I worked in advertising right after high school because I thought it was a creative business. And I did enjoy it a bit. But I ended up getting pregnant, got married, had a son, had to figure out how to make money, and wanted to stay home with him.
Right.
So I actually went to Parsons School of Design down here. I got their catalog before the internet and mailed to me. And I just kind of went through the classes. They had, you know, like a weekend class. And I said, wow, that looks kind of interesting. It was an ikebana. It's a Japanese style of arranging flowers. And I thought, I can do that on the weekends. I could do weddings from my home.
Absolutely.
Doesn't cost me any money, right? They pay me, I buy the flowers, I design for them, I deliver. It's good, I don't have to lay out anything. So that was my first thought. And so I would advertise in the local penny saver.
This is pre-internet,
pre-digital,
pre-social media. Yeah, you had to strictly be word of mouth.
Yeah. So the only advertising you could do, it was word of mouth, but you had to start somewhere.
Right.
So it was the penny saver, it was cheap.
Wow.
So, and it literally like little teeny tiny lines, you know, 3 lines for like $5.
And you're hoping somebody reads it.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because, you know, I wasn't a girly girl. So the types of flowers I did, I wasn't interested in doing like the big fluffy types of arrangements. I did very like architectural, loved picking up on like the colors and the textures, and that's kind of how I went with my flowers. And I advertised on local penny saver and started doing a bunch of weddings locally in the Bronx, but then word got out and people started contacting me in Westchester County, which to us in the Bronx,
big time.
Yeah, it's big time.
Absolutely.
Big money, big time.
You'll take it.
Yeah. So I started getting a bunch of clients up there, and then eventually I opened up a warehouse space. I got a small SBA loan for 50 grand, which sounds like nothing today. But
no, that was significant at the time for sure.
It's huge. And I got on a lot of the catering facilities recommendation list.
Right, it's such a big relationship business, you know?
Yeah, and so I was good too at connecting with people, and my designs were very unusual. So I started doing a ton of event work up there and in the city. And I employed my entire family, my brothers, their girlfriends, my mother, my sister, my uncle, everybody. I probably paid for a lot of their college parties that my brothers threw. And we would go into slow season. So in the flower business,
Which was when? When was the slow season?
Yeah, I mean, we were busy from, say, May, June, beginning of July, and then you would get busy again in September and October.
Okay, so big spring, summer, fall,
Yeah,
and then winter is kind of dead.
Yeah, you're talking like probably 6 or 7 months of quiet.
Right.
So like I would have money, and then I would be poor, and I would just felt like I wasn't getting where I needed to go. I wanted to be secure. You know, I grew up in the Bronx. We never had money. You know,
and then you're riding this wave where things are great at one point, and you're just bottoming out with nothing.
Yeah, and I rode that wave as a kid, watching my parents. So I decided, I always had in the back of my mind to have a business, like at the time, I thought like a mail order business, mail order catalog. But I had this mind for a retail line of fresh flowers that could be shipped throughout the country. So I said, you know what, I'm going to write a letter Oprah, right? And this was at the height of Oprah.
Yeah.
So it's 2001.
Like mid-2000s. Okay, early 2000s.
Okay. It was August, I remember, of 2001, because it was slow, and I was just tired of being poor.
Yeah.
So I wrote her a letter, and everybody laughed at me, just like.
But see, I know where the story's going.
Yeah. So they were like, yeah, okay, Jane, she's gonna call you. And 3 days later, the phone rang, and it was her office.
Oh my gosh.
And she said, this is, I forget the woman's name, so-and-so from Miss Winfrey's office. She loved your work. She wants you to come up with a product for her O list in her magazine. She needs you to have it down to this office on such and such a date. And we'll get back to you after you deliver the product. And that was it.
Any talk of money or anything like that?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Just a date to deliver, that's it?
Just a date to deliver.
I mean, that must have been surreal for you at that moment.
Oh my God, I got off the phone, I started crying. and then I rubbed it in everybody's face who doubted it. So I actually got a woodworker, a local woodworker to make this box for me, and because I already had it in mind what I was going to do. So I make this piece and I go down myself to bring it. And I walk into this office.
This is in the city or where is it?
In the city.
Okay.
Yep, at her magazine, because it was for the O list.
Right, right.
And the O list was, I mean, 1% of companies in the world at that time got on the O list.
Wow.
1%.
As exclusive as it gets.
Yeah. So here I am. I'm this like little nothing, write her a letter. From the Bronx, no investors, no marketing, no PR, nothing.
You had the personal touch, you know?
Yeah. So I bring this product down, and I walk into this office, and it was packed with the most beautiful gifts and retail products that you could imagine. Everybody was trying to get on the list. So I left there very not feeling great about it. And she said to me, oh yeah, Oprah is going to look at it. The powers to be will be in tomorrow. And if you're chosen, we're going to give you a call, and then you have to have another of the product down to Soho for a photo shoot. So I left, and I thought they're never going to call. 3 days later, phone rings. Loved it.
Amazing story.
Yep. You're going to go in the November issue of 2001. You need to bring the product. I had to bring the product down to a photographer, beautiful photography studio in Soho. And that was it. I was done. So, but I had no website, okay?
Nothing, yeah.
Nothing. And websites weren't like they are now, Shopify.
No, this is early internet, I mean.
Right. So I had to get a website built.
Yeah.
So I had no money. And I was in a complex. It was like roll-up gates. It was a very cool industrial type of place, up and coming. There was nobody. Now you go there, you can't get a space for less than 10 grand a month. But there was a media company there a marketing company, and they did websites. So I went, I did a deal with them. I said, listen, I'll give you a percentage of the sales until you're paid off. They charged me $150,000
Wow.
to build the website because there was no shopping carts then.
Oh my gosh.
So you had to build a shopping cart. You had to build everything.
Yeah, you had to build the infrastructure and the bones of the site.
Right.
Wow.
So that was done. So the website, I didn't have to put money out. I promised to pay them 20% of, and then above and beyond. So they made a lot of money. And then I had to get the boxes made. So numbers-wise, I figured I'd need like 10,000 boxes made.
Sure. So
I borrowed money from a fireman friend of mine who came in with a bag of cash, 10 grand in cash.
This is a wild story.
Yeah. And so I get this company, this woodworker guy, to make the boxes for me. I pay him cash, so he gives me a good deal. And then September 11th happens. Right. So I get the phone call, and they're like, listen, she's doing the next issue, November. She said it's going to be all about 9/11.
Yeah.
But she's not going to forget about you, and you're going to go in at some point. So I thought, oh my God, I'm done now. And of course, my brother was a fireman. My other brother was a New York City cop. So
your friend, the fireman here, who
gave me the 10 grand. So it was, and business was tough then.
Yeah, absolutely.
So December rolls around, I get the phone call. She's going to put you on for the Valentine's issue, which was like perfection in February for flowers. So anyway, I end up in her magazine, not once, but twice. And then I start getting phone calls from like People Magazine. They did a story on me. And In Style magazines looking for product that they can put on their Objects of Desire. I think that was the name of. So like all of this media.
It's a game changer for you.
Oh my God, my life changed. So my life definitely changed. I was making some really good money. My son and we were on our own. I ended up buying our first house. It was like a fixer-upper. And him and he was 15 at the time and loved to work with his hands too. So we bought a 1966 California Contemporary.
Awesome.
That stayed in 1966. It was one owner. And so him and I renovated it together. And then I opened up a place in Vegas. I mean, it was amazing. We were in the Oscars, goodie bag, everything.
Yeah, you were all over the place.
We were all over.
Yeah,
and I didn't even need to make a phone call because they were calling me looking for product.
It's amazing how one person can change your entire life like that. You hear about it, you talk about it, and then you lived it.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know if there's been an Oprah.
Right.
Since Oprah.
Somebody with
that
amount
much
of power.
influence and power.
Yeah.
And I haven't sent her the cookies yet. I'm waiting.
You're waiting for your moment?
But it's funny because we're kind of lined up. She's doing like the whole Weight Watchers thing, and so
I feel like this would be right up her alley.
Yeah.
Say, listen, Oprah, you've already worked with me once. Let's get these bad boys back on there, right?
So, so I take a year where I slow down and I renovate the house with Mike, who I neglected a little bit because I was working so much. I felt like we needed to bond. Yeah. And he worked. My son worked for me. He made some of the wood products at that point. So in February of '08, the house went on fire.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, in the middle of the night. The dog got us out at like 2 in the morning.
You guys were in the house?
We were in the house.
Wow.
And so we were going to be out for a year. I had to rent a place. So that was February. In June, my son Mike, he went down south to go to college. July, I end up having a heart attack. And then September, the market crashes. So
that's an insane year. But that was such an important moment in your life, not only from a health perspective, but from a business perspective. So when you went through that, what did you realize that you needed to change about your life and about your business?
Well, my cardiologist told me to go take a yoga class. He said, your type A personality is going to give you another heart attack. I knew I ate horribly. I smoked, number one.
Smoked.
So that I gave up.
You weren't eating well, but still 41 years old. I mean,
41
you're
years
young.
old. Yeah. I started exercising, so I do everything in extreme.
I gotcha.
You know, so when I started exercising, I decided that I was going to run, and then I was going to run, you know, a 5K, and then I was going to do a 10K, and then I ended up doing the New York City half marathon, and so everything I do extreme.
All the way in.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
So, and I needed to eat. I needed to start eating better, and in September when the market crashed. And I was thin. I mean, I was like thinner. I was like 127 pounds, and I was almost 5'10".
Wow. But cardiovascularly.
Yeah, my father died at 52.
Yeah.
And the cardiologist said, really, stress alone can bring on, you know, can wreak havoc on your body.
And it was obviously a very stressful time for you with the business, the house, your son's going to college.
Right.
And then out of nowhere, this happens.
Yeah, and I mean, I honestly, with business, like, I didn't know what I was doing.
Right. You were just trying to make it happen.
I learned along the way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, my father was a union where everybody in our family, they were union workers, teachers, stay-at-home moms,
you were totally
waitresses.
different from the norm.
Yeah. So I kind of had to learn as I went. But when the market crashed in September, my business tanked. I mean, anybody that was in New York at that time doing event work, flowers, it was
People
done.
didn't have the money to do that anymore.
No.
People didn't have the money to go out and go to the movies anymore,
right.
let alone get flowers for a wedding or an event.
Right. And then my retail business, my internet business, so they're fresh flowers, and they were not cheap, and they had to be shipped overnight. Oil prices, fuel prices went through the roof.
Right.
FedEx prices went through the roof. It was just...
And that kills your internet flower business.
My internet flower
there.
business.
Yeah.
So that was done.
So here you are back to square one again.
Right. So now I'm like, okay, now what do I do?
Right. How do I make money again?
How do I make money?
Yeah.
You know, how do I...
Son's in college. How am I going to figure this out?
Right. Yeah, how do I make magic happen twice? How lucky can a person be? That's kind of how I felt.
But you're a resourcely person, so you start messing around. You say, all right, I got to eat better, right? So
so I thought,
take me through
okay,
that.
I have to get out of the space that I'm in with the flowers. It's way too big. Flowers aren't doing anything. What am I going to do? So my family lives in this little town, Pearl River, like 20 miles north of Manhattan, but on the Hudson River side. And I said, you know what, rent's cheap. Let me go look over there and see what's available. And I start looking around, and then I thought, there's no coffee houses here, you know, and there's like all the restaurants, the food is loaded with, you know, bad stuff. You don't even know what's in it.
Fat, sodium, everything.
Right, I have to eat better, but I like normal food.
Yeah, you want it to taste good.
Right. But like I like mac and cheese. I like, you know, I like regular food.
Right, you enjoy food.
But you just need to figure out how to make it better.
Right.
Healthier.
Healthier, exactly.
So I found the space and, of course, built it out myself. And I was telling you before we even started here that we didn't even really have a kitchen. We had a panini machine, a coffee maker. Panini machine, a coffee maker. I think I may have had like one other weird thing because the health department, if I had a full-on kitchen, it would have been like a whole different animal.
Right.
And I didn't have the money to go down there. And plus, I didn't even know what I wanted to do yet.
Right. You're still just trying to figure it out, let alone not having the financial backing you need.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I'm in this place. I set it up like somebody's living room. So I'm selling furniture. I'm doing...
And coffee at the same time?
Oh, yeah.
All in the same place?
You could sit at the table and buy the table. That's how it was. It was.
That's great.
Right. So all of like my great furniture from my studio, from my floral studio, and all of the props from the parties that we did, I just slowly brought them in and sold them as we...
I gotcha. Smart move.
Right. Yeah. So you sit at the table, you like the table, have the salad, pay for the salad, buy
Take
the
table with you. Have a great life.
That's it. And then I did, and the town doesn't really have foot traffic, so that's why I had to do like a bunch of different things to kind of get money, you know, to sell. I did, I taught flower classes, right? So I would set up a bar, bar, food, flowers. And teach them how to do flower, and they loved it. So those classes did really, and I would charge like $20. And they would pay for all of their materials, and I would do it before a holiday this way, and I would advertise it as, come make your Thanksgiving centerpiece.
I gotcha.
and then you take it home, right? So you come for dinner, you get to eat, drink, learn how to do fresh flowers, and my flowers were very unusual. And then you get to take it home and brag about it the next day at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's an all-encompassing experience.
Right.
Yeah.
So I did that for every holiday. And then I would have independent film nights, charge them. We'd watch a small film, independent film, and then we'd sit around talking about it.
Yeah, you're doing it all at that point.
Do whatever I had to do.
So you're starting to do that, and then how do the cookies come into play?
And then it was like, okay, well, I need to really, I wanted to build another business. And I guess I always had like a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. So I played around with a bunch of different foods, and none of them I could figure out how to package them, or at least package them cheaply, and shelf life as well. So I thought about, I make great salads. I thought about salads with salad dressings. Salad dressings may come down the road. But I love sweets. So I started playing around with baking and realized that the baking that's done here and that's packaged is horrible ingredients. So I started researching like French baking, which their standards for baking are so much higher.
Right.
And so the cookies are based a little bit off of a French sable cookie. So the texture is not what we're used to here. And then I started researching ingredients and came up with some really interesting flavors and took out some of the sweetness. So it's not all about the sugar, it's more about the flavors that are in the cookies. And those flavors are actually created using the actual flavor from the plant or the
real
nut.
thing as opposed to the dye or something manufactured like that.
Yeah, and people don't even realize that.
No, they just eat it. Yeah. They have no idea what they're putting in their bodies.
Right, they see blueberries on the package and they think there's real blueberries in there.
And we just assume like, okay, great.
There's not.
And it's like an artificial ingredient.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was shocked and appalled by that. And then I started researching even flours. So we use like non-GMO flour. I use whole wheat in my gluten cookies. We also have a gluten-free, which have we use almond flour, which I didn't realize is like the biggest thing for keto diet. Yeah. And I started researching sugars. So we use all-natural sugar produced by a local family in Maryland. It's got 75% less calorie and carbs, so the cookies are low in carbs. So I just started playing with all of these ingredients. And I would test people that would come into the cafe. I would say, try the cookies, taste them, and they loved them. And I was never a florist as a kid. Like people would say to you, "Oh, you must have loved flowers growing up." I'm like, no, I like baseball.
I like sports. Yeah.
Yeah, but I did what I had to do.
Fell into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing with baking.
Thing here,
So it amazes me that I could create a product that people would like, and I never felt like I was an expert at it. You know what I mean?
But you're crafty, you're resourceful, scrappy in the way. And you have the talent too. It's not like you're just throwing things against the wall. Like clearly it's a good product.
Right. I research.
Yeah.
That's the one thing.
Yeah.
I am a researcher. Right. And then I said, okay, well, how can I package these? So I got packaging that was readily available. I did all the labeling myself. I did all the graphics myself, figured it out. It was a nightmare. It took me forever, but I couldn't pay a graphic artist, and started packaging them, putting them in shopping bags, and I would go to the grocery store and ask them if they would try the cookies. And the first place I went to, I forget where he was from. I don't know if he's from Turkey or Egypt but he said, yeah, I'll take the cookies and we'll try them and I'll get back to you. And he called me the next day. And he said, listen, I have to tell you, I get product brought into all the time. I rarely taste the product. I brought it home. My wife had a bunch of friends. They were having like a dinner party. And I said to her, here, this girl came in with cookies, try the cookies. And he said, they came into the living room to talk to me about the cookies.
Wow.
Yeah, and she said, the wife said they were the best cookies she'd ever had in this country.
That's amazing.
So I was like, okay, well maybe I'm
we're
in my second
here.
act now.
Yeah.
And so now we are where we are. We're in about 250 stores.
That's awesome.
Local, in this region.
In the New York area, yeah.
We're in Whole Foods.
Okay. That's big.
Yeah, we're in a couple of Whole Foods. I could be in more,
So how many Whole Foods are you in right now?
We're just in 3 in Westchester.
But still, these fit perfectly with the whole mantra of Whole Foods.
Yeah. And it's amazing that it's just on target with what's going on.
Absolutely. Everybody's looking to eat healthier, but at the same time, people still want to enjoy stuff that may not be as good for them, right? So like, think about frozen yogurt. Like that has a huge uprise. Because it's like, oh, it's ice cream light, you know? And then here we are, low carb, low sugar. People can still enjoy, but not in the same way with all the bad stuff in there.
And also like ingredients. So yeah, there's a lot of product out on the market that's got like 0 sugar and 0 everything. But when you read the ingredient list, it's like reading a chemistry sheet. You know what I mean?
And you're not going to take the time to read it.
Right. And way back when, when they were baking bread for, and I'm going to come out with the healthy bread because I love bread. You know, there wasn't this obesity and so there's something in the ingredients, I feel. You know, if you go back to basics and use a little bit of modern technology, like with the sugar that we use, and there's a couple of other products out on the market that are truly natural. Yeah, it's not 0 sugar.
Right, there's always going to be some sugar in there.
But we've been eating sugar for thousands of years.
Yes.
You know, just don't do it in excess.
Right, exactly.
And even with the cookies, I thought bite size. And the gluten, their fiber, the nuts have, so they fill you up. You don't need to eat 3 packs of these. Like if I get potato chips, I'm eating the bag. You know, the cookies, you don't need to do that. Yeah. So they're a healthier version, very natural version of a cookie.
I like it. So, you know, when you think about other businesses out there, like Tate's Cookies, for example, you know, that jumps out for the last couple years.
That just sold for $500 million.
Yeah. So when you look at Tate's, are there certain things you're trying to take from them strategically, or are you still doing your own thing? How do you evaluate that?
Well, she is, I kind of modeled a little bit after her because she was, if you think about it, and I mean, even millennials are old enough now to know Tate's because she's been around for like, I think 18 years. She was the first one on the market to really bring an artisanal cookie where it wasn't manufactured by a Nabisco. You know what I mean? It was like a small bakery that was able to get on the shelves of national grocery chains.
Right, without this big label here supporting it.
Yeah, and because I think it's because she was a bit more natural in her ingredients than what was out there.
Right, and all the other crap that was out there.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. I mean, they're not ring dings. They're something else. They're the vanilla thing. They can survive. They can last for what, like 5 years
Forever.
or something?
Yeah,
Twinkies.
Right, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
Definitely not.
You know?
Yeah.
So Tate's was a more artisanal, locally sourced.
Locally created. Even like the packaging,
brand.
The green box, like, you
That's
know,
it.
and same here, like people will see your box and they know it's Jane's, right?
Right.
You know, that's a big part of this all.
Right.
It's like a book cover. You know, you're in the bookstore, you're scanning.
Right.
You want to see something that catches your eye.
Right.
And this is small, compact. You can actually see the cookies too, which I'm sure is part of it as well.
Well, that's why I wanted to, I liked the window on it. And, you know, when I first brought it too, if anybody goes to the grocery stores and they buy like a bag of cookies, you know, and the bag is like this big for $2.99, when you open up the bag, it's about, you know, filled this much.
Right.
So, you know, this at least it is filled.
Right.
You can see
and you can clearly see it.
Yeah, you can clearly see it. So
Exactly.
that's the other thing too. There's really nothing deceptive. There was nothing really deceptive about Tate's cookies.
No, they're laying it all out there. This is the cookie, this is the product, this is what it looks like.
I don't know if you remember her original packaging.
No.
It was a cellophane bag, a clear cellophane bag that had a twist tie.
Simple.
That was it.
Right.
And she did the thin, crispy chocolate chips, which I think was kind of the first on the market. And it's like my cookies. My cookies are, they have like a sandy texture to them. That's what a sable cookie is. Yeah, so I feel like I'm the second Tate's.
Awesome. So how do you take it now from where it's at and blow this thing out? Because you did it with the flower business based on Oprah's recommendation. What's the move right now? What are you trying to do in terms of your next steps going
I got
forward?
on DJ's show,
Well,
and then you're going to blow it out on CBS.
That's the starting point. We can help you out with that.
It's actually just sending out the cookies. That's what I've been doing. You know, I've just been sending them out. We were in the Golden Globe goodie bag.
Right, that was a big step for you guys.
I had a local weatherman eat the cookies. He lives in Jersey City. He contacted me to to put me on a local show here in New York.
Yeah, people love a homemade story like this from the Bronx.
Right.
You're helping people in New York. You know, people
well,
love that
that's it
connectivity.
too. I'm like, oh my God, they want to hear my story again. And but I think that's gains. So I have a really
most
good
certainly
product.
helps. Yes.
Number one.
You got a great backstory.
And yeah,
You've failed and you've risen again, right? People love that sort of story.
Right.
And people know that they can connect with it because it's like, oh, I grew up in the Bronx, or I grew up in Westchester, in Connecticut, New York City, whatever.
Right.
And you were able to do it yourself.
Right.
And we live in an age today in 2019 where entrepreneurship is such a hot thing right now.
Yeah.
And especially too, like one of the things that popped out to me here is that you wrote woman-owned business.
Right.
Like that's significant too.
Right.
Because there aren't a ton of women with their own businesses.
No.
And it's really cool to see that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just a fascinating story.
Yeah, and I think it's inspirational, you know, for like women.
Absolutely, young girls who can see this and say, I can do this one day.
Yeah.
When you were a young girl, you didn't have this idea that you could do this, right?
No.
You know, you had women at home that were just baking for the families.
Right.
They weren't running a business.
Right.
So you've always bucked the trend,
Right.
and here you are again,
Right.
at another seat at the table. So I think it's an awesome story.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so I got to try these things. I mean,
yeah, you need to. I
gotta
told
pop
you
these
should have
open.
tried them before,
I know.
because if you hate it, you're going to say,
that
what the
would have
hell
been
did
an
I
issue.
do?
I got to get this box open.
Well,
Well, anyway, as I attempt to get the box open, why don't you tell everybody where they can pick up these cookies?
Oh, yeah. Well, they can go directly to my website,
Okay.
janebakes.com. And if you're in New York or Brooklyn, we're in most grocers,
most
specialty
grocery
grocers, Union.
Vanilla bean.
Vanilla bean, made with real vanilla beans that are costing about $152 a half a pound.
These are really good.
Aren't they good? So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Jane, thank you very much.
Thank you. Great to meet you.
We'll see you next time here on The Sit Down.